Hi, Prime Minister.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Oke. Nanti kalau mereka ya. Okay, I'll begin my speech in three. Am I audible?
Yep.
Yes. If you have any POI, just unmute yourself. Okay, I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. We think inside propositions, we think that college campus nowadays is already suitable enough in facing or learning about any liberal issues. Because right now, most likely college campuses only doing free speech about like common issue like education or work or etc. Well, we think that it is already enough. So regarding the free speech that we have in every single person and society, the rights that they got, we think that the rights for them to be advocates should also be prioritized. Inside proposition, we have our goals, which is we want to value social diversity in our campuses. What we mean by social diversity is not only but included religion, race, but we also want to uphold the social diversity in order some liberal values like LGBTQI plus or person or color, sexuality, any harassment, feminism, and etc. And what is the urgency on these problems and why we think that college campuses is more suitable? Firstly, note that here we are not denying any other values that is exist inside our campuses, but right now we want to prioritize free speech such as advocating liberal value to liberal value. Like we will prioritizing any activist, like our model will be we will prioritizing any activist or any seminar or talk show and sensitive training in every campuses because we don't want to ban these campuses, but we want them to be neutral in order to cater every issue that is exists. And it should be and campuses should be a neutral place for everyone, especially its student. Since the student in campuses is already suitable and have a diverse background to cater this to cater this issue, and how is they are already have a mind that is more advanced and actually ready to get that kind of thing. That is the reason on why we think that on college campuses is already suitable for this for its colleger and its circumstances. And the problem with campuses right now is that so many campuses would likely to stop any progressivity regarding to liberal value just because they have narrative that it will be something that is will disadvantaging them, and it will be something that is backlashing for their ideology, for example. And that is actually the thing that we want them to be condemned just because of different point of view, and we think that they should be neutral in order for catering all of the idea and all of the things and speeches in that is exist. And campuses should also to be the place where students can advocating their rights and voices to be heard, because we have a diverse option when campuses become the center of training. So this center of training and learning is it strengthen our reason on why college campus is suitable for that. And we think that any other value despite of liberal value is already enough outside of the campus. We acknowledge that some of these liberal values maybe already exist too in outside of the campus, but we think that in our basic we need campus to more socializing these issues to give like chance for its activists or its students to talking about this issue, so everyone will have a understanding about this issue, and there will be no discrimination towards this diversity circumstances in this campus itself. So we think that they can know and get lesson from for socializing among their friends in campuses or in their circumstances in campuses and etc. Because what is become the problem is the moment when people being racist or avoiding LGBT community is because the lack of knowledge and understanding from them from them and from their area, which not being the common of them, for example. So from this free speech action, we will also make a progressivity and making start to kind of making the mindset from them. So how will be them become tolerant and how will be them become diverse? And now, secondly, why do we supporting this liberal value to be prioritizing free speech, because we think that in free speech is not only just we are talking about and voice out about a certain issue, but inside of this free speech, it is always it is also exists a discussion inside of this. And this discussion is actually important because when you are talking about an issue, when you have like a different point of view and different ideas, and it is being discussed, it is actually can more neutralize the problems that will be exist either for the future or the problem that is exist. And this discussion is very urgent, especially in this liberal values. So we know that what is the problem of them being this, and what is the way for them to erase this problem so it's not exist anymore. Because see that in like Michigan University, which like 40% of this society of its students is a Black community, we think that from that availability, we think that this kind of they have to do free speech for a person of color, but they're providing a place for this person of color to meeting rooms and for the community in their campus, and how they will give us like sensitivity training and so on and so forth. And we think that we want every campuses to be a lot of things like that. And inside of campus, there's also a lot of affirmative actions that can hold a certain color. So we think that can be our chance to use campus platform for in order to catering these liberal values. And also, for example, like we think that in this free speech discussion, we can also think about what is wrong with our campuses, and so what can we do in order to catering that. So we think that every aspirations from the student and from the society of the campus could be heard in here. And talking about an example, for example, like Oxford University, where all of the activists is not being allowed to doing interview or seminar and etc. And we think that that is the thing that we don't want to happen in every campuses that is access. We think that as campus is also open platform and it is neutral. We want them to let them these activists from every speakers and etc. so that they will have a different point of view and different speeches. So it will not be monotone only for education seminar and etc. So we want to also introduce them into a new things. And for example, like there's already exists Oxford Union, which is Oxford Union, but they are inviting a lot of speakers to talking about many things, contribute to free speech. And this is what we want for we want every campuses to be. And
Is it just me or it's freezing?
It's freezing, I think.
All right. Okay. I think we need to wait.
hello,
Hi, ya.
is my speech being heard tadi?
Tadi kekat di 7.12, you are talking about Oxford Union as the example.
Oh, okay. Should I repeat it again?
Continue aja yang habis Oxford Union. You have like 8 seconds.
Oh, okay. I think after Oxford Union, I think that my conclusion is that this is why since campus is already an open platform, and since campus is already an open platform, we think that it is suitable enough, and they should be neutral for this kind of thing. So we think that this must be a contribution for the campus in their circumstances. Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. Okay. Thank you, Prime Minister, for that speech. Now to open the opposition case, I call upon Leader of Opposition. Here.
Hello, am I audible?
Can you speak louder?
Am I audible now? Is
Yeah.
this okay? So I will start my speech in three, two, one. So, ladies and gentlemen, and the judge, our stance as the opposition team is that we want to prioritize these liberal values in campus colleges, and our goal is to protect the minority of the LGBTQ students. And now moving on to my rebuttals. So firstly, the goal under their side of the house will not be happen because there are still conservative people that are gonna be still attacking and opposing those LGBTQ people, and they are, of course, the government side is of course very evil for still allowing this to happen. And secondly, if they play on a very progressive country outside and inside the campus, this means uh, that they are ignoring the motions because these motions require us to do advocation and meetings and seminars. So this means that we should be playing on a semi-progressive country in the very first place. And thirdly, look at the government stance. They bring free speech, but also they bring liberal values. This means that their benefits will not be as large and as much since they focus on two different things. Moreover, the harm that will happen on our side could just still happen to your side of the house. And fourth, you say that the campus is still new. At the start, you said that the campus is still neutral, but later you contradict yourself by saying that the campus is taking affirmative action. And of course, this gives benefit to the minority. So this means that the campus is not neutral in the very first place. Moving to my mechanisms. First, we will create a seminar about LGBT rights. Secondly, we will of course inside of the meetings we will limit the we will invite the progressive people, for example, the LGBTQ students, for our main quest. And thirdly, instead of every meeting, we will limit the free speech under the terms if it's attacking the minority, in this case, the LGBTQ people. And disclaimer, what government should be defending in this debate is why is it okay for the conservative people to attack the LGBTQ minority. And moving to my first arguments, why we think it is justified to protect these LGBTQ minority. First layer, let's contextualize a bit. So LGBTQ community is of course the most vulnerable actor in this debate. It means that college campuses need to protect them since we acknowledge there will be some people who are still conservative and opposing the liberal values in the campus. And right now, they are still the LGBTQ people are still the most vulnerable actor, so we need to protect them in the very first place. And conservative already gained power from all these years, of course. So they are not the one that that we should be protecting in the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why. So the question that we're asking is that our side is asking is why should the campuses be protecting them? Well, firstly, it's because there are already many activists in the college campuses, and this of course proves to you that they already have some sort of progressivity in the campus itself. So this means that it is also their job as an activist and their interest as an activist to protect the minority at the very first place, ladies and gentlemen of the judge. And secondly, there are still, of course, supporting the values of democracy in the campus, and hence why they should be protecting the minority. Because parallel example, for example, a small political party in Indonesia like Democrat can still oppose the government. So this means that the democratic value is still protecting the minority, and hence we say, therefore, we are still, it is within our interest to still protect the minority. And for us to take away the rights of free speech is also justifiable, because if it attacks other people's right, in this case, they are attacking the right of the LGBTQ people. Hence why we think it is still justified for them, for us to take away their free speech in the end of the day. Moreover, comparatively on their side of the house, when college campuses don't advocate the liberal value, they would not be able to protect these minority, which which, as I said before, is the one that we should be protecting in the very first place. And therefore, under all of those reasons, that is why we think that it is justified to for campuses to advocate these liberal values. Second layer, why it is not our priority as a campus to protect free speech, because firstly, free speech is of course free speech, because the moment that we do free speech, for example, free speech against the government, these problems will be overclouding the main problem that we have, which is supposed to be protecting the minority in the very first place. So the moment that you fall on the government side of the house, we will not be protecting the minority, because the problem of protecting minority will be overclouded by other bigger problem, which the campuses should not be doing in the very first place. Because, for example, attacking the government, there are still many political parties that can still do that. So that means that this free speech is not the priority uh, of the college campuses in the very first place. Going to my second argument, why on our side it will be beneficial for the LGBTQ student. So I recognize that the minority in status quo are still being opposed, such as LGBTQ people and etc. And we say that if college campuses are advocating their rights, it will create a new real development for these LGBTQ students. So firstly, this will of course give hope to the LGBTQ students that they that they no longer have to hide their own identity, that they have a real development in the world, that they can actually just show their true self and can have their true gender identity. And this means that they don't have to struggle anymore to have their true gender identity for themselves. And of course, this can create a hope that they can actually create real development for the LGBTQ students. And comparatively under the other side of the house, this kind of development will not be happening, because the college campus in the very first place are not protecting them. This means that they will not get encouraged, they will not get motivated, they will still trapped under their bubble that is like, oh, I'm LGBT, that means I have to be ashamed, and that thing will not happen on our side of the house. So this means that you will have to follow on our side of the house. Secondly, if there is like LGBTQ people and other minority they will be able to opt out of their real world, and they will of course can join the groups that are of course advocating this minority. And that means that they will have a happy world where they can live in and have a happy community that are actually supporting them, and they won't have to be living on a conservative minority that is still like opposing them in the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why we are very proud to oppose.
All right, thank you, Leader of Opposition, for that speech. Now I call upon Deputy Prime Minister to extend the case of government. Here.
Am I clear?
Yep.
Sorry? Am I clear?
Yep.
Thanks. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The problem is that you say we're not protecting, we're opposing, and something like that is actually not happening in our side of the house. It's actually happening in your side of the house, because the minority people in our side of the house is the people with having an idea that is not exposed to the campus themselves. These are the minors that we want to protect. That is why, rather than you trying to protect your minors, we're trying to protect our minors better than yours. Because one thing is that our people are the ones are being attacked in this situation right now, because they are the ones that they have their voice, their sounds unhearable by other people. That's why we need to have them. They need to have a platform that is safe for them to speak up. And in the end of the day, they are the ones that are attacked from your side of the house, because people with LGBT ideas will think that our people with minority ideas are not supporting them and trying to force them to follow their side. And this is harming every part of the student. In a campus, that can happen, because we're in a place that is very diverse with very many people, variation of people inside them. That's why we have to support every stand in that place. That is why, jumping into what I'm trying to say, is that because of this, that is why we need more chances and opening ideas. We have to make a better view. With more views, people will follow more ideas that they have. And and things like that. This is very important because again, campus is a place that people learn and have good regulation and stuff. That is why we need a healthy way to make sure that everyone has the voice shout out. So they don't just follow something that they don't want. They don't follow something that is just not from their idea. It will make them a better place for them to study and better place for them to see and understand many things that are from the diversity themselves. That is why we have to make sure that every idea is sound loud enough for everyone to speak. That is why free speech is a solution by putting other ideas than these ideas. Like my first speaker said, that those ideas are so common in our society right now. Many people understand and many people hear. That's why we think that's already enough for that side. We're not limiting, and once again, we're not erasing those ideas from our free speech. It's okay to speak that out, but we want to prioritize. We want to make sure that other sounds are sound out. These liberal values are not dominating the entire environment. So that is why we have to make sure that everything is safe for every people. And after that, we have to make sure that things in our society are safe and conducive as place to learn and study. So make sure that everything is safe, so so people can learn from, because learning is not just from classes and stuff. They learn from outside of the class. That is why we think it's good enough. We have to understand that campuses are open and students are in there are actually more open than we think. That is so. It's a good place, a good platform because they have so many regulations that could upstand. And with those regulations, we can see that they will understand. In the future, we can see after this time things that are things that are safe. So we have to make sure that they can have a good place to stand up their voices and something like that. Over that place, everyone has the right and open, and they won't just follow what they want. They will be able to follow what they want, what they desire, what they can understand, and free to speak up. And the thing is that the ideologies that are attacked in the first place by your ideologies, because of that, will be safe at the end of the day. Because, and again, this is a diverse place that everyone has the same right to speak up, to understand. And by this, we can see in the future that the thing is that the campus will have a healthy life of thinking straight and open ideas, making sure that with many cultures we are safe and sound, because like you know that people come to campus from many places and are safe. This is the thing that we should. And if you want to just focus on things, the first thing that will happen is people's sound won't be valuable. The value of people's sound will be erased. The diverse will be destroyed, and people will just like follow something that is not from their own mindset. And then the thing is that after all of these, we should understand that these things. But liberal values we talk here is also about social minorities, for example, like people of color, LGBT, and etc. And the values is what are talking about right now, not the minors and the major things. Another side what we mean is that not about the idea of society thinks what's major or minor. Right now, it's more like that. Freeing everyone to speak what they want. And again, and so many activities in campus that is so diverse. There's so many activities there. But even though it does exist in the campus, but their freedom of speech to speak out is still being condemned. So this is what is the problematic where campus should be neutral place. That's why campus has to be neutral place so everyone could speak up their sounds. And if it do campus job do protect the free speech, because they must uphold and make sure every student have the rights to speak up. Because like I said, right now on status quo, there's too many ideas of LGBT and stuff. The lower sound of minor sounds in campus are not heard real loudly. That's why we have to prioritize their speeches. We have to prioritize these other sounds, because it's already enough in our current situation right now that people talk about LGBT and stuff like that. It's already enough that but again, I'm saying that we're not limiting or not saying this or speaking this out. We're not erasing or something like that. It's already, we just want to give more diversity to people so they understand, because this is a platform to learn, and learning itself doesn't stand on just in classes, like I said before. With opening this day, we have a wider point of view, what's in society, what's the problem, not only those problems, they can have a wider view, and they have more options to follow more often to deny, more often to see. And this is one of the best way for a college person to learn. And because they are more open and more understandable than other type of students out there, it's giving them more places to understand, new things that they deserve, than giving them a better campus life. Because holding up an idea that they don't really like, or maybe holding up an idea that they don't even understand, is very bad. But if they have a problem, like for example, they have like animal protecting problems and they meet another animal protector, they will have a happy life to enjoy, to chat around, rather than just following something that because it's more popular and stuff. That will first make them unable to enjoy their life. And the last thing I'm saying, they have good regulation. That means they will have a good place to speak up with so many layers of rules and things to follow that will not go to chaotic, and then they will have a better way to express themselves. That's all from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Prime Minister, for that speech. Now I call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to extend the case of opposition. Here.
Oh yeah, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, give me several seconds, please. Okay, so starting in 3, 2, and 1. I think that proposition team should take one bold stance, since I think they say that campus should be neutral, but later the first speaker told that campus already give several affirmative actions, for example. It means I think it's problematic under the side of the house, since because they still give several benefits, even more to the minority, doesn't mean that the campus is actually neutral at the end of the day. Secondly, I think if they say that their side also cater liberal, it means harms that they say could happen in their side of the house as well at the end of the day. Just like what the second speaker said, that, oh yeah, everyone have to have their own ideas and etc. But then remember that the first speaker told that, oh yeah, we also catering liberal and etc. It means that the harms that being told by the second speaker can also happening under the side of the house as well. 3, if campus already that progressive judge, I don't think that we need students full group of LGBT, just like what government said under the first speaker, right? Since the reasons why they create those kind of group is just to create acceptance and etc. But to the fact that there are still those kind of groups, it means that the context is not that very progressive. Hence, we are playing under a semi-progressive country, just like what my first speaker said. So, to win in this debate, both teams need to characterize which one is actually more vulnerable. Does it the ordinary people that requires its right to be fulfilled, or is it LGBT or minority that actually need the protections, right? So let's actually answer this. Is it LGBT or is it ordinary people? Let's redefine what's free speech in this debate, because I think that the government characterizations is a bit misleading, right? I think everyone can agree here that free speech means that everyone can have can have their rights. It means that they can say what they want at the end of the day. It means in their side, you can freely judge whomever that you want. We said that this is something that we do not want happen in the current status quo, where LGBT community who already being discriminated, for example, in several parts of the city, for example, where progressivity do exist, but it it is not super amazing and etc. Right? Several of them are still being discriminated and etc. We said that this is something that we cannot stop. We said that this is something that we should stop at the end of the day, since I think LGBT community is the most vulnerable stakeholder in this debate. Right? My first speaker already told to you that LGBT community is underprivileged, while the ordinary people who have been living here for so long have been normalized by the idea of a gender and etc. also have their security at the end of the day, but it is not but the security doesn't apply to the LGBT community. That's why we said it's much more better if you are protecting the LGBT community, since they are the minority one. Even in democracy, we are always trying to protect minority. Look, even minority people should be allowed to vote, for example. It means that democracy actually protecting the minority. Hence, that's why we say campus should protect under the basis of humanity. But let's rebut some of their points, right? They said that, yes, campus should be neutral and etc. But let's redefine what's actually campus supposed to be, right? We said that campus should be a place where everyone can study well and etc. So we see that because they need to cater all of the students in order for them to be comfortable, I do think that LGBT should get more protections at the end of the day through the seminar being held, through the groups meetings and etc. in order for them to really speak up inside of that group at the end of the day, in order for them to express what they want, in order for them to express what kind of suffering that they've been feeling in the current status quo, for example. I do believe that politics, free speech, and etc. can be done outside of the campus itself. We don't think that campus is supposed to be a battleground for the politics at the end of the day, for the conservative to basically attacking LGBT rights and etc. Since I think campus should be a place for you to study well and etc. Right? We said that this is something that really problematic if you're following the side of the house, since free speech will make politicizations on the campus in the very first place. Thus, it means that it cannot create basically comfortable area for the minority and etc. But secondly, do realize that if you are putting free speech, for example, it allows for the people who have allegiance to the conservative political parties, such as PKS, for example, to also speak up inside of the campus, denouncing like RUU PKS, something that LGBT community really want, for example, right? That is why we don't see that this is something that create a comfortable living for the student. But even if yes, Judge, that we have to be neutral, but we say that if it's neutral, you have to take stance under the humanity issues. I do believe that we should protect the LGBT at the end of the day, giving them liberal values at the end of the day in order for them to feel comfortable, right? Because we say that they have been underprivileged for so long, and this is something that we could compensate. That we say that is something that we should compensate at the end of the day. Hence, we say it is something that really not to be done. Moving on to my extensions, how it create to better progressivity inside of this campus and etc. Right? Recognize that in this world, how we do make progressivity is through socializations in a very long time. Feminists are able to get their rights. Women able to get their rights from 100 years ago, basically from asking to get food and etc. Right? This is something that we call as a normalizations, where everything, when we talk them as a something is really beneficial and good, and in the end of the day, society will take it as a good behavior, and because of that, they implement those kind of things. We said that in the process, we're also going to portray the LGBT and the other minority as a human being, for example, and secondly, about how they're suffering based on their data, based on the experience and etc. And thirdly, we're also going to say that they are not entirely going to prohibit religions and etc. Right? Because in Christianity, even Pope Francis actually sometimes supporting LGBT rights because he's still saying that LGBT is still a son of, yeah, is still one of the God sons and etc. I forget. I'm sorry, but well, we see because there are this kind of socializations that they are seeing how suffering they were. I do believe that this create an empathy towards the people and towards the students inside of the campus. Why we do say that empathy is really important? We said empathy is really important because it what makes you feel to be like that person in the very first place. It put you in the positions where you can feel the suffering and etc. This is what makes moderate people, this is what makes progressive people to donate their money, for example, towards the LGBT community in order for them to survive in the current world where maybe we are being discriminated and they cannot get a job, for example. Secondly, these kind of groups who have been created through the seminar, they can support them by saying that your identity is basically are being accepted in this current status quo. And thirdly, it gives you a motivation letter, for example, to keep your spirit and basically not to succumb under the oppressions having happened in the current status quo. That's why we believe that campus should protecting LGBT, we proudly to oppose.
All right, thank you, leader of opposition, deputy leader of opposition, for that speech. Now to summarize and also extend the case of government, I call upon government whip here.
Am I audible?
Yep.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. As the proposition side of the House, we believe free speech is something important to uphold and prioritize in college campuses because it's about to protect the voices of those with unpopular opinions with some substantive arguments. But before that, I would like to give some responses to the opposition side of the House. First thing is that they mentioned that we cannot protect the minority if we focus on free speech. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not about the minority, but we want the value to be balanced. We want the value of how we open with every critics of different point of views of every speaker or every individuals. We want the best for the campuses. This is what we think that campuses need to take. What's the best instead of liberal values. And then this debate is not actually bad for minority, but this is not the best for minority, but this is what's the best for college campuses. Better because it is to be a better culture on addressing social issues, for example, social issues in the campuses, on which stance the campuses should need to take in order on what's more important, what's happening right now inside school. And then the opposition side of the House are being contradictory to say about keep saying about minority, but that it can still be catered in our side, which is note that we want to advocating the free speech of the value of the value meaning of the speech itself. And the next thing that I want to clarify that the affirmative action that the government policy that they gave us about this affirmative action. That's the thing we want the campuses need to deal. That's what we want to accommodate. The neutralism means that we need to be neutral and fight for their opinions. And then they mentioned that should be doing something progressive in the first place. But here we're talking about the college campuses because we think that the campuses is already campuses right now is in progressive is already progressive enough. Even though they're progressive or campus or not, this place should be neutral. And the next thing is that they mentioned that campus should only be the place to study, not for politics. But since our side already tell you and explain to you that how is the situation in campus already suitable and how this kind of mindset of their colleges already advanced, so it's fine for us to prioritize this free speech in college campuses. So now I would like to clarify on what's happening in this debate. So the clash in here is that whether or not free speech is more urgent to be prioritized than liberal values. So why do we agree with this motion? First thing, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what's the urgency in our side school right now is that free speech is actually not being upheld in college campuses. So the problem in here is that if there is, for example, any comments that will disadvantage that will disadvantage them or the different way of thinking, for example, the campuses or people with power will stop them just because they have different point of view. And this is the problem we want to fix in our side because we believe the most important function of free speech is to protect the voices of those with unpopular opinions or those with opinions disliked by people with power. Take another example on how there are many sexual harassment or abuse cases that happens in some college campuses. But when the victim of these cases cannot express themselves because they're afraid to talk and afraid of the laws that exist. For example, the cases where the lecturer, for example, abuse their student, but the victim cannot say anything about it because it is their fear because they for this person because they are worried about the bad image towards campuses, for example. So this is what we want to fix, because if we prioritize free speech, it will be a safe environment to discuss such things. Free speech is about the basic things, for example, like individuals, about rights, about animal rights, the regulations of the campuses itself. So it will be a safe environment to discuss those things than any outside places. We don't agree with, if we, for example, don't agree with that person or the speaker point of view, it is okay. We won't judge them. We will accept their opinions and discuss about that. And then number two, we believe about this liberal values. We don't ban this liberal we don't ban this, but we want the campus to be neutral. Their mind is already advanced. We believe their people in those campuses already have advanced thinking and actually ready to get that kind of thing. For example, like LGBT rights and POC meeting rooms and sensitivity training, etc. So we just don't, as the government side of the house, we don't want these values to be dominate. We don't ban them. We want this free speech to be prioritized than any other values, because we believe this values still can be achieved, still can be get outside of the campus itself. So we think prioritizing free speech is actually more urgent to do, and it's more important to do because of our arguments that we said it before. And the next thing is that we believe that how is it justifiable? Because the nature of college is that the people or the students that in that college comes from different backgrounds. So it is a good place and safe place to discuss about social issues, for example. That's the thing that we want to uphold social. We want to be neutral to uphold social diversity about social free speech about social issues, and that's to our goal in here is that to uphold social diversity. That's why the proposition side of the house, we believe free speech is which we would prioritize free speech in contrast to liberal values. That's all. That's why we're proud to propose. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, government whip, for that speech. Now to conclude the case from opposition, I call upon opposition whip. Here.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, so I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, the conservative right now is still opposing the LGBTQA. There is still PKS who oppose the RUU PKS and etc. And they are also opposing the LGBTQ and many, many more. Thus, we can rely on progressive context. I want one point to pointing out from the government team. They say judges see that in the government there is a lot of backlash. In their first speech, they say there will be no tolerance at the end. But they say again, but that there are in the out of the campus there is still progressive people. So I think this is backlashing with their own argument. Moving to my first class, why is it justified to limit the free speech at the end of the day? They say that we think in the campus that the liberal value is enough. Right now, they want a social diversity and etc. They want a neutral. Didn't want to bias to liberal. Firstly, no, because in the campus, you cannot deny there is a student who are still racist at the end. You cannot deny that if they do it, even if they are limited in their wording, since there are beliefs that LGBTQ is bringing harm and etc., they would still do that at the end of the day. B, about neutrality. Campuses, if campuses is not neutral, it is okay, because as campus, we have an obligation for making our student more comfortable, for example, in freedom of gender and etc. Next rebuttal in the first clash, Thus, the university should be neutral or not. Note that this is not true since the campus are always not neutral in order to provide the best experience for the people to study. In order to achieve this, every campus should accommodate to the student needs. We say that LGBTQ's rights and needs are not being fulfilled yet. Hence, we say in order to accommodate them, liberal values is more important in order for us for students to accept LGBTQ community. And it doesn't validate discrimination and oppressions against LGBT. In their side, they validate this since they allow conservative people to attack the LGBTQ people. Even if, yes, they should be neutral, we say that free speech can be practiced outside campus, right? For example, if you want to do protest against government, it's not inside campus. We want to not inside of the campus since we want to protect the LGBT community at the end of the day. So moving to my second class, which side is actually more beneficial towards the society and to the minority? They say that it will harm the conservative because they are being limited. Maybe I assume they might maybe say like they might more aggressive and etc. Yeah, if you state it like that, yeah, you let them conservative and LGBT and anything and the racist to be to discriminate the minority, even if yes, that is perfectly fine, because our goal is to make some progressive society. And talking about religion, for example, like Islam, that there is a progressive ulama, for example, like Quraish
Your
Shihab.
eyes.
No, thank you. Which is very liberal and in his fatwa. So it's a big no. Moreover, you let the racists at the end still attacking and oppressing the LGBTQ people. They are still being mocked and oppressed in their life. Even if yes, it makes the conservative hard more opposing and etc. Yeah, it's perfectly fine, because if we acknowledge free speech or not, they are still opposing in any way. Opposing us in any way, but in us, at least we educate future generations to at least, if the student didn't agree with us, they will at least not that opposing, like because they're being educated enough being educated enough in their college. For make it clear, like they would critique it more, like if they don't agree with our value, they would critique in more polite ways, not like in the status quo where they're opposing the LGBT people or feminists with harsh word, or maybe could change or maybe we could change the mindset of our student, and just limiting their wording is not enough at the end of the day. And the last rebuttal is they say that the diversity would not sounding. Firstly, why diversity is still in us? Because in our world, we already contextualized that the previous speaker already contextualized that the minority is still oppressed. There are still organizations like the conservative heart Islamic, yeah.
Your eyes.
No, thank you. Conservative heart, like FBI and etc. But in us, we just make it stable by make the university biased to the liberal value. So in conclusions, in opposition side there is still a free speech in out of the campuses. In comparison, in government side, the minority people will not get the free speech because we are the contextuals that in the status quo there are many conservative and they're always attacking the free speech, right? So if we at least give the campus a free speech, so there will be like the stability in the free speech in itself. So there will be a diversity and there is still free speech in our side of the house. Thank you.
All right, thank you, opposition whip, for your speech. Now to summarize the whole debate coming from opposition, I call upon opposition reply here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay. Give me several seconds, okay? starting in 3, 2, and 1. So, Judge, if you judge this debate and you want to be a good judge ever and etc., I can give you several recommendations why the government side is a bit problematic in this debate, right? Firstly, they say that they want free speech, but they never engage with the worst case scenario. Why, if the conservative is actually still attacking the LGBT community inside of the campus, that is something that is going to be better at the end of the day. We already engaged with our worst case scenario. Why? Even if we limit this kind of free speech rights towards the conservative, it's absolutely fine to begin with. My first speaker already told to you that it's still perfectly fine, since people who are basically conservative, they already have a lot of security at the end of the day. They are not being judged, their values is being seen as a moral one, and etc. That's why we say they already have several privileges in which to say it's better for us to protect the minority and the LGBT community in the current status quo. This is why we say that it creates a better world inside of the campus at the end of the day. Firstly, secondly, they also never engage the worst possible scenario. Why in our side of the house it would create a better situations for the LGBT community. All the statement is just going to say that campus should be neutral and etc. We already rebutted that by saying that campus should not be neutral at the end of the day in order for them to provide the best experience for students at the end of the day. We already saying that this is actually what campus doing in the very first place. Even the government side talked about that at the end of the day by saying that affirmative action has been given in the first speaker. It means that campus is justifiable not to be neutral in the very first place, just like what the government team said. So what does the most important thing in this debate, right? First class is about whether or not campus should be neutral or not. I think it's pretty clear that our explanation is already very complex by saying that campus is okay not to being so neutral in the very first place. If it's biased towards the humanity, towards the LGBT, and towards the minority, I think it's a pretty good deal to be taken care of, right? Why? It's because that we are able to protect someone that's really vulnerable in the very first place, where we provide them with the same basic humanity level, with the same humanity that we are trying to portray in the real world, for example, right? It allows them to imagine a world where they're able to opt out from their misery world in this current status quo, just like what my first speaker said. But secondly, we also say that it gives them hope as a students that the world right now is very progressive, hence it's protecting the minority even better in terms of happiness and etc. Something that's never been rebutted by the government side of the house. Secondly, we also say that it's going to provide LGBT with better support system. Like for example, they're able to talk inside of a seminar, thing saying that my identity is like this and blah 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 blah. We say that it's already been given, but it's never going to be rebutted by the government side of the house. Comparatively, we already rebutted several of their points about their benefits, right? Firstly, it's about why why free speech is actually not important inside of the campus, for example. We already reported that by saying that free speech can be done outside of the campus, for example. If you want to say that RUPKS, denouncing RUPKS and etc., you can do it outside of the campus and not inside of the campus, for example. Secondly, we're also telling you that free speech actually increasing the amount of discriminations inside the campus, for example, by saying that someone is really conservative can also attacking students that are LGBT and also minority at the end of the day. That's why we say it's better for the campus not to be neutral, so it provides a better experience for the students at the end of the day. But lastly is about diversity. We don't think that this is an important argument at the end of the day, since we do believe that diversity can be achieved on both sides of the house, right? Look, when we are advocating for liberal values, when we are advocating for inclusivity at the end of the day, that's we call it as diversity as well, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that at the end of the day, to the power imbalance that the conservative have, and because of the diversity that is still happening outside of the house, we do believe that we win in this debate. That's why we probably to oppose.
Thank you, opposition reply for that speech. Now to close the debate, I call upon government reply. Here.
Am I clear?
Yep.
Okay, I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Today, I would like to tell you about what is happening in this debate. So I think in this debate, both teams agree that we want to protect the right of the people. But what is being asked in this debate is that first, what is the urgency for both sides to be debated? And second of all, what method is better or beneficial to reach the goal? And third is what is which team is actually have a stronger argument to support their proposal. Well, now I'll give you a set of comparisons of what is opposition and propositions already talking about in this debate. Firstly, about the idea of urgency. In their side opposition, they are bringing up the case about they have a goal where they want to protect minority, and they're bringing the case on how conservatives right now is opposing LGBT, and that is what is the main thing that they are talking about in the very first place. But we think that this is backlashing their side because the person that is fighting for liberal value is it should be us as the opposition, and not that LGBTQIA plus is also a liberal value that is fit to our scenario. And so inside opposition, they should be explaining about what is the urgency on why liberal value should not being prioritized, and why is this free speech should not being prioritized about liberal value. So there is a loss from the opposition side of the house, and compared to our side proposition, we already give you the urgency on why we should prioritizing free speech in contrast to liberal value. We also already respond on their question about how we should doing this in progressive semi-progressive country, but we already stated that how campus should be neutral, whether it's in progressive country or not. We think that campus should be neutral, and this is the main thing that they are trying to trying to respond from our case, but they don't really give a clear stance on why does this neutrality is not important at all. And also, second of all, we also already explained on our previous speaker too about how is the situation in the campus and how is it suitable. We already explained to you on how is the colleges in the campus already have an advancement, and how is in the campus is already suitable, and how is the background of diversity, social background is already exists in that, and that is why we think that it is suitable enough. And we already explained to you about what is the importance of the free speech to be upholded. We think that the most important function of free speech is to protect the voice of those with unpopular opinions, or those with opinions disliked by people with power. And especially in this case, where these liberal values, which is like advocating LGBT rights or person of color, it should be upholded in our side of in college campuses, because of most of these college campuses usually denying that value to be spoken in their college circumstances. And second of all, which method is actually better to reach the goal and beneficial to the campus? In their side proposition, they are not clear whether they want to support liberal value or not, because most of their cases only talking about minority and only talking about the LGBTQIA plus, and they also talking about how campus should be place for study, but they don't really also cater in our case in our side of the house, where we already told you and how is in a campus is an open platform, and how is the situation in campus already suitable enough, and they real and say, well, instead of proposition, we have a method where we will allowing some activist seminar and talk show to be held regarding to freedom of speech. And we think that our methods will be more beneficial rather for the conservative or not, because in our side we want to freedom of speech to become a discussion, which discussion is lead to something that's more progressive in the college campuses. And so every aspirations can be spoken in these campuses, and note that inside opposition we are not denying any other value that is exists inside our campuses, but right now we want to prioritize free speech such as advocating liberal value, because in order to campus as a place for neutral place, we think that this kind of thing is already exists, and etc. And for this reason, they also not respond to our people on how we give people chance to speak a valuable idea and how can it be discussed and whether set of view. We think that in this debate, our side proposition is more better in explaining our case, and that is why I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
All right, thank you, government reply, for that speech. And now that concludes the debate for the quarterfinal.